Home sweet home. It feels strange to welcome you in this house again. It's been a week that we are back here, but to be honest, we really just start to settle again. We crossed the country so fast that we barely slept and just drove through very extreme cold. We are still recovering from that trip back. We meant to film a whole lot more during the travels, but life decided otherwise. The conditions of our trip across our ginormous country was way too harsh to film it properly, as you'll discover in the rare little clips we managed to capture. But all that put aside, it still feels really good to be back after being away for so long. I forgot how peaceful it could be here in the winter, and slowly but surely we are readapting both to the climate and our lifestyle here. Our days are still infused with the memories of our last week in Haida Gwaii, and replaying these meaningful moments in our minds made us realize how traveling changes us. It makes us evolve. It's our experiences that shapes who we are, and we have to bring what we've become back to our home to make it evolve the same as we did. We've seen so many wonderful things. Some passed through our lives in a brief pleasure, and some left a deep imprint that will stay with us for the years to come. This is one of the places that reshaped who I am. It belongs to a lady who built this entire homestead over 45 years, all by herself while raising her kids. We've only met her briefly on our last day on the island, and she will never know how much of an impact she had on me. She made me see that there's no limit to what can be achieved if only we take it one step at a time. It was hard to quit the island, as we feel our journey there isn't fully complete. But as soon as we put a foot on the ferry to the continent, we started to crave being home, and I just couldn't stand being away from my daughter any longer. And anyway, Haida Gwaii and its mysteries will still be there on our next visit. We didn't know at that time, but the road ahead of us would be daunting. Once we were on the other side of the Rockies, the cold was merciless. It was just impossible to stop and camp on our way, so we drove almost non-stop for the next 3 days. The van and the trailer became disgustingly dirty, even in temperatures as low as minus 40 degrees Celsius. I don't even understand how that's possible, but it happened anyway. From Haida Gwaii to Quebec, we drove a bit over 5,500 kilometers in 84 hours. Let's say we arrived home pretty exhausted. But once we arrived here, we could see the place we built with fresh eyes. It was like being here for the first time. We sometimes forget how beautiful is the area where we laid down our roots. And there's nothing like coming home from a long trip to regain the perspective that can remind you that in an instant. It felt strange to see the land so different from when we left. Everything was buried in the snow, and we had to fight the overwhelming sensation that we had so much work ahead of us. We tried to put one foot in front of the other and do what we could with the energy we had. Stressing out about everything wouldn't help for sure, so we stayed away from that as much as we could. Each little task completed was like putting a bit of ourselves back in our home. It was like relearning to know an old friend after not seeing them for years. At first, there was a bit of shyness from both parts, but it didn't take very long for the tension to dissolve back into the comfort we've always known. Now that we are back and settled, we feel ready for the next chapter. And spoiler alert, there might be a very big project on the horizon. Have a beautiful week.